So OSR games in general, and BXD&D, which is my favorite, uh, have this kind of hidden quality that maybe isn't super apparent to somebody looking at them coming from, let's say, more modern games, if you really started there, right? And that is that you can basically be just about anything that your imagination wants. So I started playing D&D when I was 9 years old with my friends. We picked up the BX kit, the set, the box set, and we taught ourselves how to play. And we played Greek, demigods. We played Arthurian knights. We played Robin Hood. We played all these different things, pirates, raiders. All these things. We went on quests to do anything, and all we had was those basic character classes. We eventually played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and there was Rangers and this kind of thing. But when I look back at it, I don't know that really added anything. If you were a fighter and in your, there's no rules that say you can't track, right? So if you're playing BX and your fighter is, you make a fighter and you say, hey, this guy is from the woodlands. He wears leather armor. He, uses a bow, and he's been doing these kind of things. And that's how you've been playing your character all along. When you find yourself in the forest, a good DM is going to be like, oh, well, you're from the forested area. You should be able to track them, and then he'll give you a chance to do it. That's basically how the game works, the simpler games anyways. There's no actual fixed skills for most things. They come from your character and how you play the character. That's not to say that you should randomly pop up all the time and be like, oh, I forgot to tell you that my character is a blah, blah, blah. You learn and you play and you create this character through role play and through things that come out. And from that, you can then gain, quote, skills, if you will. But forgetting about skills, who cares about any other? People care about that, I suppose. From my point of view, what I'm talking about is the style of play. Partially this comes forward because I was on a forum and somebody said there was an issue, if there was one, that their party of players, was DM, had several +1 weapons, and they weren't really using them because they weren't the kind of weapons the characters like to use. And okay, so many of the responses there are a reason for another video, but I will just skip that for now. And I'm just going to say, bravo, players. If you make a player that loves to swing a warhammer and they find a magic sword, if you imagine your character as a character that's always used a warhammer and that is their weapon, and they don't use the sword all the time, and maybe they don't throw it away, they keep it if they need it, maybe there's a creature that can't be hit by the warhammer, that's great role play in my mind. It's like, this is what it's about. It's not about just optimizing your character. Many a time I played a thief who in BX can use any weapon, and I'm not running around with a two-handed sword, right? Usually I'm using a dagger, because to me, a thief's using a dagger. They can hide it on their body. It's small, it's sneaky, that's what a thief would use. I'm not using a pole arm. Sometimes, but not as their main weapon, not as their main deal they're carrying around. Because the choices that I make, equipment-wise and weapons-wise and armor-wise, help set my character up. It creates that character for me, for the DM, for the entire group, right? So if you're playing a fighter and you're just like, yeah, I'm more like Conan, although if you read enough Conan, you see that he does wear armor and stuff. But, I'm from the wild, so I don't really wear a lot of armor. Maybe I wear leather at the most, or no armor, and I use a two-handed sword. That's great. And as a DM, we need to find players like this, that find things for players like this, I should say, that will benefit them. So if I know my player doesn't like to wear plate armor because that's just not their style of their character, if I roll randomly plate armor as a magic item, I might just make them bracers of defense. Why not? That's something the character can use. It keeps with the style of it. And it doesn't make them go, oh, okay, so I can either compromise the cool character I had in my head and have the magic weapon that I'm probably going to need, or magic armor, or I can keep playing what I'm playing and basically take what is essentially a penalty by not being able to use it. Now, I'm not saying you should always do that. Sometimes magic is magic. You don't always find exactly what you need, right? But I do think that we need to look at the parties that we're playing with, especially in a campaign. One shots is what it is. But if you're running a campaign over time, you want the people to be able to grow and continue their characters and be the way that they like the character to be. So if they are somebody who likes to be like a Spartan or whatever, and maybe just have like light armor or no armor and a shield and a spear, be sure to give them magic shields and magic spears when magic armor and weapons are rolled up. Don't give them, chain +2 if they're not gonna. I mean, if they're not gonna wear it. Uh, it just, to me, it makes way more sense to give people what they will actually use. And I'm not faulting. I'm not calling out this DM for giving them the wrong stuff. I mean, they probably were just using what was in the module, which plenty of times I've given people weapons they haven't really used. It can happen, and sometimes it's important. Maybe the quest or specifically, it makes more sense for the person to have armor because they were a knight. But if it doesn't matter and you can change things up, especially with an ongoing character, it makes sense to do that, right? To give people what they need to keep building the characters that they want to build. Because ultimately, that's what we want, right? We want our players to be so invested and love their characters so much that they actually get that little like skip of the heart when they think that like stuff's going down, right? The game becomes scary. I mean, not really scary, but you know what I'm saying. Like it becomes more like intense because, oh man, this is like, it's not just a name on a piece of paper that I just bought the best equipment I could afford so I could have the lowest armor class and the most damage. It's somebody who I had some thought process and I created that I really like. So to me, that's the ultimate player, and we need to foster those players. And what I will say is, going back to the original point here, is that you can, with creativity, make just about any character that you want. Really think about, who is my character? Where do they come from? And then equip them in a way that makes sense, right? If you're playing, let's say, a magic user who's supposed to be like an archaeologist that wants to delve deeper to find, magical secrets, maybe they're going to have lots of rope, lanterns, oil. They're going to have, spikes and hammers. They're going to have sacks. They're going to have, maybe chalk and ink. They can take notes. This is all part of your character. None of that really matters, right? I mean, the magic user can only use a dagger, right? And they only has one spell a day, or whatever people want to say. That's combat. Like, we're talking about all the other times, right? Who is this character? What's going on with them? What makes them who they are? And once you can have that idea in your head, then the more simple classes become more and more complex in a sense, and you get more options because there are less. Because you're not looking at it going, oh, I'd like to play a ranger, but a ranger can't do this or it can't do that, because the book says the ranger. You're a fighter. You're a ranger. You can do anything you want. You imagine that your ranger, uses a longbow, or you imagine that your ranger uses a crossbow, or you imagine that your ranger uses a two-handed sword. Whatever you want, right? That's the ranger for you. And that, I think, is ultimately the strength of the game, is that you can be the hero that you want to be. Within the rules, you can create so much that's not just there on the surface. So let me know. Let me know what kind of characters you guys like to play. I mean, and I'm not putting down in any way people that are just like, I'm a fighter, I'm going to get plate mail, I'm going to get a sword and a shield, that's the best damage, that's the best ratio, blah, blah, blah. That's cool too. Some people like to play that way. I have no problem with that. But I think we need to make allowances on some level for the people that really want to role play different types of characters, because that will keep the game fresh. It will bring more ideas so that every single fighter is not just wearing plate mail and using a sword and a shield, right? Every single thief is not in leather armor with a pole arm, because it's the best weapon they can have. Every magic user isn't just whatever, cast a spell and run, right? Or throw daggers, have 20 daggers that they throw. It's like, maybe that magic user never fights because they're an old man and they don't want to fight. They're a coward. That's 100% totally completely fine, and it's what makes the game awesome to me. Anyways, let me know what kind of characters you guys like to play. I'd love to know that. If you guys play like newer editions of the game and OSR stuff's new to you, and you have a certain type of class that you like to play, and you're curious how like it could be done in BX, put it in the description and we'll kind of talk about it, and we'll see if we can actually work that out and make something that theoretically would work. In any case, until next time, I will see you.